Will you be disappointed if this team doesn't make the 12-team playoff?
Yes. I would be disappointed if this team did not make a 12-team playoff.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank. If you're thinking about starting a business or know someone who is, check out Emprise Bank's SBA loans. It's always good to know your options, and they can be your partner in possible.
Hello and welcome into this week's edition of Mizzou That's Who, your podcast from Missouri Athletics here on KC Sports Network. I'm Tucker Franklin, hanging out as always with Maggie Johnson. We are here for our season preview pod. It's finally here. We are a week out from the Missouri football Tigers taking the field against the Murray State Racers. We'll talk about that game a little bit, and obviously we'll have an in-depth game preview. I say in-depth. I guess you put that in air quotes. An in-depth game preview.
We can go
on Murray State Racers. Hey, look, 2-9 last year in the FCS and Missouri Valley. Tough conference. So we'll get to them here in a second. Maggie, how are you doing?
I'm good. I also cannot believe that we are 8 days now away from opening up the first game at Faroe. Very excited. It's weird because after that national championship happened, which obviously Mizzou didn't play in, but we had a great bowl season and all that. I enjoyed the downtime. I mean, you guys are massive Chiefs fans. I support the Chiefs. I watch them, but I'm not as big of a Chiefs fan as everybody over there in Kansas City and things like that.
Right.
But it's a lot less stressful for me to watch Chiefs games than it is for me to watch Mizzou games. So I enjoy that little bit of downtime, and now we're getting back into that anxiety mode. What's going to happen?
Anxiety mode is a good way to put it. We are here to break down every game on the Missouri Tigers football schedule for this 2024 season. Before we head into it, over under 9.5 games for this team. So I just looked on DraftKings Sportsbook. The over with a little bit of sauce on it. Plus 135. You can make yourself some money if you think the Tigers are going to win 10 or more games. Under minus 160. So the under is favored with the Missouri 9.5. So Maggie, should we just go ahead and dive into Murray State? Obviously, we'll talk about this game more next week in depth in terms of what we anticipate from it. But look, Murray State coming down. I saw from another sports book that Missouri was favored by 47.5 points in this game.
Yes, that's what I have too.
2-9 in 2023 in the Missouri Valley Conference. Didn't catch where they finished, but tough conference in the FCS. Murray State, traditionally not a football powerhouse, Maggie.
Not a football powerhouse. Good news for Mizzou. Mizzou's never lost to an FCS team since it became the FCS in 2006.
Yeah.
So that's a plus. Like you said, we'll talk about this a little bit more in depth. But the fact of the matter is, they're just not very good.
Yeah.
They're not a very good FCS team. They're probably not going to be very good against an FBS team. They won those 2 games, or they won, did you say 3 games in?
2-9 is what I had them at.
Okay, yeah, maybe that's what,
yep.
Okay. So, 2 games in 2023, and their previous coach went 15-25 over the last 4 years. So it just hasn't been good time for the Racers. They do have a new coach. A few of these teams are playing this year have a new coach. So
a lot of them, yeah.
A lot of them. So we'll kind of talk about that a little bit too. I don't see how they come into Columbia and pull off a win. I will say that if you're the betting type, I would not take the spread.
No.
47.5 when we don't want Brady Cook playing a full game. We don't want Luther Burden playing a full game.
Right.
Come on. We all remember what happened early on in this season last year as well, working out some kinks. I wouldn't take the 47.5, but I would take money line if you want to bet.
Yeah, sometimes in these games too, I know DraftKings Sportsbook will do this where they lock up the money line where there's we're not gonna let you put any money on the money line just because we're not gonna pay you out a cent. I think
because it would be insane. It would be an insane.
Right.
It's 5,000 probably.
Yeah. I saw the number of 47.5 and I was like, wow. See, this first week of college football is so fun because you get spreads like that and you're like, wow, is Georgia really going to beat Samford by that much? I don't even know if Samford's on their schedule, but
they are a lot. So.
They are.
They're on somebody's team. Mercer's always on Alabama's schedule. I'm how many games did you work out with Mercer? Poor Mercer.
Mercer's just collecting the bag. They're just showing up for the check is all that Mercer's doing. But yeah, in the Missouri Valley, as I mentioned, a good FCS conference. I guess it's also like the Ohio Valley is also a part of it now. Lindenwood's in the Ohio Valley Conference.
Yeah.
They rose up quick from D2 to now all the way at here. But yeah, I have them at 2-9, 1-7 in the conference. They finished the year on a 7-game losing streak. Holy cow. No wonder they have a new coach this year. Look, and one of the things that I wrote down in my notes for this game is I want to see the depth on this team, want to see what the 2s and 3s and probably 4s can do. It's a good game for these redshirt freshmen guys that will be getting the red shirt from their first 4 games to get in and get some reps in, some good quality reps. This game is more about Missouri than it is about Murray State. I think we've talked about that every year. These first couple games are about more about Missouri than they are for the other team. Same thing with Buffalo, who's coming up on September 7th. That game is a Saturday. Murray State, obviously, August 29th on a Thursday. Buffalo on a Saturday, 6 p.m. The Buffalo Bulls have had better times in their program. 3-9 in 2023, coming in with a new coach. Their old coach, actually at Alabama now. He took a position there at Alabama, but this program has struggled for the past few years. Again, another situation where a team coming to town. It is a step up in competition. Obviously, this is a MAC team. This is an FCS or an FBS team playing in a Group of 5 conference, a pretty good Group of 5 conference, but they are not the best MAC team out there. And this is going to be another opportunity for Brady Cook and company to, you know what, maybe play 3 quarters. We'll play 3 quarters this game, get a good after half game plan in, implement it well, have the second string kind of take over in the fourth quarter of this game. I think it's a good approach to the way this one goes. I'd love to see it shake out that way.
I totally agree. I would love for it to do that. But so I didn't say this in the Murray State preview, but they took their coach from South Carolina.
Yes.
Buffalo also did. Buffalo took the special teams coordinator, made him the head coach there. More good news from Missouri. Buffalo had the 125th ranked offense in a 3-9 MAC team, okay? And then they lost their quarterback, top 2 running backs, top 6 wide receivers, and 2 offensive linemen. It's a good game for our defense to still be working out some kinks if it's going through a new Corey Batoon, defensive change, because this offense should be pretty bad. It should be pretty bad. I expect the line to be less than Murray State, maybe somewhere around that 32.5, 35 mark. I still wouldn't take it if I were you, just because it's another one of those games where I think that maybe you see a Drew Pine or, you see them bringing in some of those younger wide receivers like Josh Manning, Daniel Blood, that type.
Yeah.
But I don't see how we'd lose this game. I have us at 2-0.
Yeah, same. Those are 2 certified wins I have on the schedule so far. And look, again, these first 2 games, you don't want a whole lot of fanfare. That's going to be the biggest deal, is get in, get out, win the game. I don't even care how much they win by, truthfully, honestly.
Don't have injuries.
Yeah, don't get hurt and don't. And it's a lot like with preseason NFL football, right? Yeah, you want to win these games, though, more than you want to win, the preseason games. I don't care if the Chiefs are 0-2 in preseason right now, right? That doesn't bother me. I'm not losing sleep at night. But in these games, you obviously need to win them, especially if you have the expectations that this Missouri team has. You need to win these games. But get in, get out, get the job done. Don't get hurt is the big thing. And I wrote down for really the first 3 games as we move on to Boston College, if you're ready to move on there, which I think, Maggie, this is the first interesting team that the Missouri will face. Boston College, ACC program, one of the only few teams that won a bowl game on Missouri's schedule this year. When I was going through it and looking at 2023s, they're one of, actually, they might be the only one, now that I look over it. I think so. The only team that won a bowl game on Missouri's schedule, Boston College, to defeat SMU in the Fenway Bowl, 7-6 in 2023. This is a September 14th game. It's on Saturday, 11:45 a.m. kickoff in Columbia. First 3 games in Columbia. I think that's huge. I don't have to go to Chestnut Hill. What was that? 3-4 years ago they went to Chestnut Hill?
Yes. It was 2021. Yeah. And if people listening don't remember, Mizzou scored 17 points in the fourth quarter, including a 56-yard field goal with time expiring by the one and only Harrison Mevis. for us to go into that overtime. And then we laid an egg, and Zay Flowers, who's first-round draft pick.
Very good football player.
Very, very good football player. Caught the winning touchdown pass. And it was deflating. It was deflating because, yes, anytime you go to another Power 5 team, like, those things can happen. But in all reality, Missouri should never lose to a Boston College. And I'm not trying to, like, no offense to Boston College, but we're an SEC school. You don't lose those types of games. Missouri's defense was bad in 2021. Like, it was bad. We were ranked 113th in total defense. It's drastically improved in the last 3 years. So I think that, us giving up, I don't even know what that final score was. It was a high scoring game, though. I mean, it was a high scoring game. So I think we'll be okay. Game's at 11:45. They also have a new coach.
Bill O'Brien.
That is I mean, that's kind of a big name.
So, okay, let's talk about Boston College here for a second. Because Boston College found themselves in the middle of, like, the whole coaching conversation this offseason when they had one of their coaches say, like, hey, or their head coach say, hey, I'm going to the NFL because this college coaching stuff is too stressful. I got to worry about too much shit here, basically, is what he was saying. Obviously, I'm paraphrasing, but that's practically what he said. He's like, I'm going to the NFL because it seems a lot easier and I'm going to make more money. He did that, and that was kind of a conversation starter for a lot of the coaches and coaching in general around college football, because there's a lot that these head coaches have to do now in college football. They then hire Bill O'Brien, who is a successful offensive coordinator in the college football ranks. With Alabama, he was the head coach at Penn State for a hot minute, and they did okay when he was the head coach there. But I do think offensively, they could be a really interesting team. Like, Thomas Castellanos as a quarterback is good. He's a good runner. I don't know how he's going to adapt if Bill O'Brien comes in and immediately puts in the Bill O'Brien system, because he's not necessarily like a Bill O'Brien quarterback. I like Thomas Castellanos a lot, and I hope, for Boston College's sake, that Bill O'Brien is like, okay, let's kind of do some more quarterback run stuff than like what he traditionally does to work to the strengths of Thomas Castellanos. I think Boston College is a wild card this season. Like, I think that they could be either really good or like really bad. And I kind of tend to lean to really good. I still think Missouri wins this game. I still give them a certified win on this one. But I think Boston College might find themselves in a pretty good spot as like a program in general from like where they're at right now.
I saw somewhere, I think, that Boston College hasn't won more than 7 games maybe since 2009, which is kind of an interesting step. But that's kind of about getting the right people in. Totally agree. I think for us to really win this game, it's going to be up to our D-line. I mean, their rushing attack is what they are known for. Castellanos was second in quarterback rushing yards only to Jaden Daniels last season.
Yeah.
And we all know what Jaden Daniels did to Missouri in Como. So just something we'll have to be on the lookout for. But as good as their rushing attack was, they had one of the worst receiving grades in FBS football last year. Castellanos ranked 128th in terms of passing grades. So I think if we can stop the run, pressure the QB into making some questionable choices, I think we're on our way to 3-0.
I think so too. I still think Missouri wins this game, even though I do think Boston College is a wildly interesting team. Like, I do think that they'll be one that when I look at their schedule, I had it pulled up here, I could see myself putting a Boston College upset on some of the teams in their schedule, because especially in the ACC, they don't get like the tough slate that a lot of the teams do in the ACC. Like, they have Florida State, right, to start it off for them. Like, I probably won't play Boston College there, but like Michigan State, they host Michigan State.
That's winnable.
Very winnable. Like, they might be favored in that game. It's going to depend on what Michigan State does in their first 3 games, but like talent-wise, I think Boston College might have a little bit more talent than them. And like, if you're looking at these like other games, like Pitt, like I think they can beat Pitt. I think they could beat UNC. Probably. Like, I mean, there's a few of these games that I wouldn't be scared to place dog bets on Boston College.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I maybe not money line. I mean, unless you want to make like a lot of money, but I think covering for sure against a lot of those teams, if they are the underdog, it was probably like a smart way to go.
Yeah. Right. Let's move on to Vanderbilt, the first SEC game on the slate. They come to Como on September the 21st. That is a Saturday. Missouri also doesn't have another game besides Saturday.
Yeah,
I keep saying Saturday, and he's wrong.
Pretty standard college football day.
Pretty standard.
I don't know. It's, Arizona's going to K-State on a Friday night. The Friday night right before we play Boston College. So sometimes you just don't know.
That's odd, but yes, right.
And a conference game.
They're trying. The Big 12 wants to do that. The Big 12 wants to play Friday conference games now, just to be different. In the Big 12, I like to call them the Mid 12 because they just have a bunch of... Their conference has no identity.
No, anyway. I went on a podcast last night and somebody asked me what the most interesting conference to me was, and I said the Big 12 because I have no clue.
They have no identity. You don't know who... I think Utah's going to win that conference because Cam Rising is 47 years old and is the most experienced player in college football, and like Utah's good, and I think that like Utah's always like sneaky good, but
they have a defense and an offensive conference, so that will be interesting to me watching a lot of those games to see who kind of wins out, because you think about schools. I mean, last year was a little bit of an exception in terms of, I mean, you still had great defenses like Georgia's defense, and Mizzou's defense is very good, but typically it's more of a defensive conference like the Big Ten. They're more like strong defense conferences, and the Big 12 is not used to playing against any good defenses, really. Right. OU's defense is better now, but they're also not in the Big 12 anymore, so that'll be an interesting conference to watch.
Utah's a sneaky tough place to play. People don't give the altitude mixed with just the environment there. Sneaky tough place to play. Anyway, Vanderbilt coming to Faroe, 3:37 p.m. flex. I assume that this would get the 3:30 slot. 2-10 last year for the Commodores. In 2023, 7th in the East. They were coming off of a season where they were 5-7, if I remember correctly, in 2022, and then they just kind of laid the bet, shat the bed again. So that's kind of what happened with Vanderbilt. I don't know how. I think this team's still going to be bad. They did get one of my favorite group of 5 quarterbacks out there in Diego Pavia.
A lot of guys from New Mexico State. Well, they brought in that offensive coordinator, but I think they took 5 guys.
A ton of guys from New Mexico State, and that New Mexico State team was fine, but
Auburn in Auburn,
right? They did. That's
by a lot.
Hugh Freeze game is what that was, if ever. But yeah, they did. And look, their coach retired. That's why New Mexico State had such a big exodus there. I do love Diego Pavia. I don't know if you heard the story about, because he was at New Mexico State when they were at New Mexico. He peed on midfield on the logo and he got arrested or something like that. Hilarious. I love him. He's just kind of, yeah, he's just kind of like a guy, when you watch him play, he's just chaotic, but it's like a controlled chaotic energy. I don't know if that fits Vanderbilt very well, is what I'm trying to say. I love to watch him play, but man, I don't know if he's going to be successful.
If you were going to be a coach at any school, maybe in the entire country, I would say Vanderbilt is not a bad school to be at. So they've got Clark Lee, and he is an alum. Mm-hmm. He's 9-27 and just 2-22 as a coach. And you don't even really hear about him being on the hot seat that much. Really, he's there. He's collecting real nice paychecks and just kind of, maybe if they get an upset every now and then, good for him. But it doesn't really seem like they care too much. Their offense was okay last year. It depends on how you looked at it. They were ranked 80th. Defense was terrible. They were ranked 124th out of all FBS teams. I think Missouri will just need to take advantage on both sides of the ball. They're good offense against their bad defense. Mizzou's not sure about defense yet against a not great offense. We talked a little bit about the portal and what they brought in. They also lost AJ Swan and Ken Seals, who took like all of their snaps last year. Not very good. They each had like 1,200 yards. And then they lost Will Shepherd to Colorado. They just lost a lot. And I know they brought some excitement pieces in. I don't think it's enough to win in Columbia. The most interesting pickup that they got from the transfer portal, to me, and probably anybody that watched the Cotton Bowl last year, is Ohio State's punter.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah. So we might have to like try to figure something out so that we're not pinned, within our 10 every game. But because he's a dang good punter. But yeah, I think they have the ability to upset maybe somebody on their schedule. I don't have it being Mizzou.
Yeah, I agree. I got this as a certified win as well. Mizzou has a bye week after this. And one of the notes that I had written down when I was just going through, because the way I was looking at it was like without the bye weeks in there, so I was just looking at like the list of like the teams that they played. The note I'd written down when I was looking at it was like potential letdown. Could this be a potential letdown with the next game coming up being at College Station against Texas A&M? I think with the bye week in between, that like keeps it from being a letdown. I do. So I'm disproving myself in my own note there.
You have to think about it, like say it out loud.
Right, yeah, no, and now, because that's what I was doing when I was looking up, I was like, wait, I should look up their schedule with the bye weeks in it so I could see how it lays out, as I do think the way the Missouri's bye weeks lay out, I think is great.
I think it's the best case scenario, to be perfectly honest with you. You'd maybe want one before Alabama, but I'm perfectly happy with it being after Alabama and resting before OU. I think that's perfect. So you've got it right before the meat of your SEC schedule, and then you've got it right in the middle of your toughest two games, probably two of your toughest two games. So yeah, our bye weeks are perfection.
You literally go 4 games off a week, 4 games off a week, 4 games. Like that's perfect. Yeah. But the way it comes down, but bye week is a good chance for us to stop and tell you about our friends at Home Field Apparel. If you didn't see that one coming, you should have saw it. Yeah, he should have saw that one coming. I'm rocking the hoodie today. It's been a little crisp in Kansas City. Maggie rocking the Script Tiger shirt. Great stuff there from Home Field Apparel. You can obviously, I think they still got their can't miss kickoff boxes. Rocking and rolling there. So you go check those out. Get you suited and booted for this college football season. You can go use code Mizzou24 for 15% off your first order at homefieldapparel.com if you're into more than just Mizzou. If you like, Rutgers, like I do, they got you covered there as well.
Boston College probably is
Boston College. They got
some
good. Yeah, they got some good Boston College stuff. K-State and KC. I'm sure K-State fans are listening. So if you guys, they got K-State stuff there too. Use Mizzou24 for 15% off your first order. All right, Maggie, let's take a break. We'll be back right after this.
We appreciate you supporting KC Sports Network by listening to our podcast. You have helped us become the highest-ranked Chiefs podcast network in 2022 and 2023. And don't forget about our daily Substack newsletter, the best written analysis you can find on the Chiefs straight to your inbox every day. kcsn.substack.com.
With big wireless providers, what you see is never what you get. Somewhere between the store and your first month's bill, the price you thought you were paying magically skyrockets. With Mint Mobile, you'll never have to worry about gotchas ever again. When Mint Mobile says $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan, they mean it. Say bye-bye to overpriced wireless plans, jaw-dropping monthly bills, and unexpected overages. Mint Mobile is here to rescue you with premium wireless plans starting at just $15 a month. Worried about losing your phone? You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all of your existing contacts. You can ditch the overpriced wireless with Mint Mobile's deal and get 3 months of premium wireless service for just $15 a month. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/KCSNMTW. That's mintmobile.com/KCSNMTW. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month with mintmobile.com/KCSNMTW. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month, New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
Welcome back into Mizzou, That's Who. Hey, look, if you want to send a message to the show, you can text 913-407-6524 for the KCSN hotline. I'll read your message right here on the show. You can call it. You can leave a voicemail. We'll be doing like post-game show stuff as well. I did a few of those podcasts last year, just me talking to my computer. We'll probably do some of that too with some voicemails if you guys want to call 913-407-6524. Write that number down, 913-407-6524. Send a text, shoot us a call. We'll get it here on Mizzou That's Who podcast. Maggie, let's continue our trek through this schedule here as we have Mizzou's first real big test. It's the first test of the season for Mizzou as they head to College Station and they take on Texas A&M at Kyle Field. This game is at 11 a.m. 11 a.m. kick.
Best case for us.
Really is. 7-6 in 2023, the Texas A&M Aggies where they lost to Oklahoma State in the Texas Bowl. Mike Elko takes over for Jimbo Fisher, who had a less than stellar tenure in College Station. Maggie, thoughts on the Aggies?
I really like Mike Elko.
I too.
I loved what he did at Duke. In his 2 seasons at Duke, he went 8-5 and 9-4 at a basketball school. So I really like that. I like what he did this year. He brought in Colin Klein from K-State, who was obviously the quarterback for K-State, and then was their offensive coordinator the past year or two. I think 2.
Yep.
So I'm very interested to see what's going to happen. They have a healthy Connor Wegeman, who was out week 4 last year with a foot fracture, I believe. He's got a good group of wide receivers. He did lose Evan Stewart to Oregon, so that's a little bit of a setback, but I still think that they have some pretty good wide receivers, a decent running back room. Defense, on the other hand, they're young, they're inexperienced. They lost Walter Nolan to Ole Miss, so I'm not sure if they'll be able to stop our offense, but I'm going to wait for you to say something before I give my if I think we're going to win or lose or not.
That's fine. I do think that they have a lot of talents on the defensive side of the ball. And I do think that they will be a very stout opponent. As I mentioned, I think this is the first real test. I want to see something from Texas A&M before I fully believe Texas A&M. I feel like we have done this thing. Now, this isn't fair to Mike Elko, right? I understand it's not fair to Mike Elko, but we've done this thing for the past 10 years, maybe, of where we're like, Texas A&M, let's put them at the top. They're going to be good this year. They got a good recruiting class. They're going to be pretty solid. And then they go 7-6. And
they're 8-4 merchants too. 7-6 is a bad year for them because usually they're 8-4.
Right. And so Missouri should beat 8-4 teams. If this Missouri team is as good as we anticipate and expect them to be, they should beat an 8-4 team, no problem. I do think going on the road to Texas A&M is not nothing. That is a very tough place to play. I've tried to play there in my online dynasty. Tough place to play. Don't know play.
The guys yelling with their guns up, and it's an interesting place too. It's not just it's just a lot of weird stuff is happening.
It's a cult. It's okay. You can say it's a cult. It is.
Very culty down there. You're
right. Texas A&M and Penn State. Those are the 2 places that I think are the most culty universities around. Yeah. I think Missouri wins this game. I don't have it as a certified win. I wouldn't be surprised if they lose this game. And I also, I think about this to the Georgia game last year. I think we kind of went into that game thinking look, Missouri wins this game. We had a pretty darn good spot. It happened pretty early in the year, right? So that loss wasn't huge.
It was November 4th.
Maybe I'm thinking LSU. I'm thinking LSU.
Yep, you're thinking LSU.
LSU is the game where we went into and we thought, you know what? Missouri wins this game. Awesome. But if they lose it, they still got a lot in front of them. They can still do a whole lot. It's not gonna tear down their season if they lose to LSU. I think that's kind of the same way with A&M here. I think that this game is early enough in the season. It is their first 10. Like, Vanderbilt's not going to be anything. Like, legitimately, I think the hardest team they'll play is Boston College before that, and that's going to tell you a whole lot. But I think they can win this game, and, like, I think they can win it comfortably. Their offense is good. Like, that's the other thing, is that, like, Texas A&M might have a good defense, but, like, you mentioned Connor Wegman's healthy. Don't know a whole lot about them on the offensive side of the ball, truthfully, about A&M on that side. Like, I feel pretty good, truthfully, about Missouri going in and taking a win here.
It's also a situation where, if you think back to last year, you remember how we were told we sandbagged a little bit for those games before we played K-State?
Right, yeah.
Well, Colin Klein got to see what Mizzou's defense was all about. There's so much turnover with Mizzou's defense that he might be, a little bit lost to. My only concern with this game is the fact that it's the first test and that there's not a lot before it, because, I mean, I'm maybe Boston College or Vandy. We really don't know. I was very torn because I know it in my mind what I think our final record is going to be. And there were two games that I just couldn't decide between the two if I thought maybe we were going to win or lose. I have this one down as a loss. I hope I'm wrong. I don't, obviously I think Mizzou can compete in this game. I think Mizzou has the talent to win this game. I just think that maybe because of the home field advantage, which is huge in the SEC, like I think people just like don't understand how important it is. Like that was one thing too I was talking about with the OU and Texas coming in, is just how different home field advantage is, because you can go to UCF and play in front of 40,000 fans and it's rowdy. And like Oklahoma State is rowdy, yes, but it's not a rowdy 90,000 people or a rowdy 100,000 people like we're going to get at Bryant-Denny in Alabama. Kyle Field is going to be rowdy. It's huge. It's another 100,000 person stadium. Mm-hmm. I just have it down as a loss, and I couldn't get the other one. I couldn't pick the other one as the loss, so I'm going with A&M.
I wouldn't be shocked if they lose this game. They're right now. I just looked at DraftKings. October the 5th, they are 4-point dogs. Missouri is going.
But like you said, it's not the end of the world if we lose this game. Like it's really not. 12-team playoff. We can still, we can still make that playoff system or that whatever with a loss here. Let's just hope that we win it.
Yeah. Yes, I have this as a true toss up in terms of on the schedule. This is the first game that is not certified in any way. Actually, I don't know if I have. Well, I have a couple more certified wins on the schedule, but I do think that this is the first one that if they lose in this game, I would not be shocked. Right, I'll put it that way. But I do think that they have the ability to go, and as do you. I mean, they have the ability to go in there and win this game. Only a 4-point dog, truthfully, going into A&M. I think you'll take that on August 21st. You'll be okay with that. But
yes.
Well, good news is they don't have this opportunity to be a letdown, because the next week they travel. I believe it's Amherst. Is that where they're at?
It is. It's Amherst.
Amherst, Massachusetts.
I'm sure it's going to be beautiful. October 12th in Massachusetts.
And McGurk Alumni Stadium. I don't know if you saw the video from G-Fed talking about how awful that stadium is.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I saw. It does look similar to not, I don't want to say a high school stadium, but definitely a very small
D2 for sure.
D2.
Yeah, I think Northwest Missouri State's field is very similar to it. Missouri Western also is very similar. If you have ever been to either of those, Linden Woods is probably smaller than it, I would assume. Last time I was at Linden Woods, so they were obviously D2, and that was a few years ago. I don't know if they've done a whole lot of stadium renovation since then. But again, this game we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on because it's UMass, and they are not good. Well, they're not good. They're independent. They're going to join the MAC, I think, next year. But they'll get railroaded in the MAC. They're not a good team, not a good program. 2s and 3s in. keep it moving, get in, get out, stay healthy, take care of business type of game.
Yeah, the last 5 seasons, they've won 6 games. 3 of them were in 2023. And in their last 3 SEC games, they've been outscored 145-44. One of those, they scored quite a bit. One of them, they scored quite a bit on Georgia. But that was like 20. It was early in the 2020s, I think, or maybe even 2018. No, they weren't what they are now. Georgia wasn't. So, and they probably, again, had a backup situation in. I will say, this is another poor program thing because poor UMass. They play, we get to go there. So, it sucks, but they also go to Starkville and they go to Georgia.
Yeah.
I mean, just brutal. I mean, they're making a lot of money this year, but it's just brutal. Their defense was ranked 117th last year. They gave up 37.8 points per game. I don't see how there's any way they can stop Mizzou's offense.
They play Liberty, too, this year.
Oh, no.
I just took that. Holy cow. Yeah, their schedule. I have just recently created a player on NCAA 24, NCAA 25, sorry. And I've been playing with UMass because I wanted the complete story. I'm playing on freshmen so I can rack up as many stats as I can just to see how many yards can I actually get with this running back is what I'm doing. And I started at UMass. Their offensive line sucks. So this is my scouting, is just playing with them on NCAA 25 is they're not good. And Missouri just needs to get out of there healthy.
I'm hoping that we get out of there healthy and by a lot so that I can watch some of the other games that are on October 12th, to be perfectly honest with you.
That's the good weekend. Yes.
That is the great weekend. It's like Red River Shootout. It's Oregon, Ohio State. There's games I want to watch.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of glad that we don't have, we're not hosting UMass this year, so I'm not missing, all those games being in Columbia.
Point.
But
silver lining for that one. Time TBA that a little.
Definitely silver lining.
TV, also TBA. So we don't know what channel that game's going to be on. Probably shouldn't be televised, truthfully. But anyway, homecoming, October 19th on Saturday. Auburn comes to town, an Auburn squad that, look, they've had better years, but they're on the up and up. I think Auburn's on the up and up, very much so. They had a big cat weekend, a lot of recruits going in over there. This game is scheduled to be 11 a.m. to noon. Auburn 6-7 in 2023. They lost to Maryland in the Music City Bowl last year. Hugh Freeze's second year for the Tigers. I think they're getting better, as I mentioned. I still don't think it's enough to win in Columbia. First gut reaction. Look, they've got a lot of talent in their skill positions. They've got a lot of talented skill position players. The thing that keeps me from saying that this team's good is Peyton Thorne. I don't think Peyton Thorne is that good of a quarterback. There are some Peyton Thorne believers out there. I'm not one of them.
Yeah, I think a lot of their issue too is that their offensive line is pretty bad.
It's bad.
It's bad. I mean, last year he only threw for 1,755 yards, 16 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. They were 121st ranked last year in passing or in their offense. So it's just not, they're going to have to do a lot to improve. And I know they went out and got some good wide receivers. We talked about that when Chris Marler was on the show.
Yeah.
They're still freshmen. They're still young guys. They didn't go out. If they would have went out there and got Will Shepard from Vandy instead of him going to Colorado, I would have maybe been okay, they brought some people in, but I don't think that they're good enough this year to really make that big of an impact. But in the next few years, I definitely agree that they're going to be moving up.
I have this game down as a win, not a certified win, because I think I could see a world where Auburn comes in and they play well, and it's a Hugh Freeze plays up. That's just what happens. I could see a world where that happens. Usually with certified wins, for me, it's can I see a realistic path for a team to come in and beat Missouri? Usually when it's not a UMass or a Buffalo or a Murray State, I certify it. So I just have this as a win on the schedule. I think that Missouri will get the job done. It's one of those that it might be an ugly one. This might be an ugly game. I don't I don't know if Missouri and Auburn play clean games. Like, I think every Missouri-Auburn game that I can think of has been just ugly one way or the other. Like, there's never been just like, oh, that was a really good football game coming from an Auburn-Missouri game. You're just like, ew. Even if you win, you're just, ew.
We should have beat them in 2022. I feel like there's got to be something said for the guys that were on this team being like, that was embarrassing, and there's no way we can let them leave on our homecoming game with a win like that. Right. Plus, we just need to build up a little bit of street cred against Auburn because they've beat us every year that we've played them. And that's how I feel also with like Mississippi State. I'm like, there's some teams, I'm like, what are we doing here? Can we just win? Like, we're better. Like, let's just win the game. That's how I feel about Auburn. It'll be a great environment. 11 a.m. sucks, but it is what it is. It's homecoming. No one does homecoming like Mizzou does. I think it's going to be maybe, hopefully, similar to the South Carolina game last year when they came in. Terrible offensive line. Yeah. Not great wide receivers because Xavier Legette was out for most of that game. I think he played like the first quarter, but was out for most of the game.
Drive, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. We had a very short amount of time in that game, but I don't think it would have mattered. So our defensive line was so good in that game. They couldn't do anything except kick field goals. So, yeah, I have us down as a win, and hopefully moving to the other Alabama team unscathed. I mean, not unscathed because I had them losing to Texas A&M, but in a good spot. We're still in a good spot at this point.
Absolutely. As you mentioned, the other half of the Iron Bowl on Saturday, October 26th, the Missouri travels down to Tuscaloosa, Alabama, at Bryant-Denny Stadium to take on the Alabama Crimson Tide, ranked number 5 in the country currently. As we record this podcast, this game is set to be a 3:30 to 7 kickoff game. It's on the flex window that Alabama has. Look, 12-2 in 2023. Lost to Michigan in the Rose Bowl. Very good game. They have a new coach this year. Nick Saban retired. There's a lot going on. Like, I think the board takes over, and I don't think they miss a step, truthfully. Like, I think Alabama is going to be a good football team. I am a Jalen Milroe believer. I just stumbled all over my words. I'm a Jalen Milroe believer. We got to say it with my chest. I think he's going to be a pretty darn good football player. I'm excited to see how he evolves in this system. How Kalen DeBoer uses him, too. I think he's just a great offensive mind. The only thing that I worry about is when I look at that offense, they don't have a ton. Like, I guess they have a really good freshman wide receiver, but like they don't have a ton of wide receivers that like you feel comfortable in taking over from day one. Their best wide receiver went to Texas. He's now a Texas Longhorn. So like that's the toughest part there. But I do think that I have this down as a loss just because I think Alabama is still going to be pretty darn good this year.
I also have it down as a loss, and that's because I would be fooling myself, I think, if I give us that much credit, because I would rather be wrong in this scenario, but we haven't beat Alabama, I don't know, the 60s or 70s maybe. It's been a very long time since we beat Alabama. It'd just be very, like, naive of me to be like, we're so good this year, we're going into Tuscaloosa and winning. Would I love for it to happen because I'm going to be there? Yes, absolutely. It would be awesome. I just don't know if I see it happening. Good part, though, is I don't have a lot of faith in their secondary. I think it's young. I don't think it's the best secondary that they've ever had. So if we can pull something together and we can, our offense can shine, our pass offense, Brady, Luther, Theo, all of that, we're healthy going into that game. You never know. I don't think the spread's going to be, I don't think they're going to be like two score dogs. I think it might be somewhere around like 10, but I think it's a winnable game. I'm just not going to put us as winning that game.
I think so too. I think it'll be a competitive game, and it might be more competitive than if they would have went there last year, right? Like they might have been like they might be more competitive this year than if they would have went there last year with the team they have now. Again, we talk about home field advantage. Like that's one of the toughest places to play. Like I'm not gonna. It's gonna be tough for me to give them, as you mentioned, like the best predictor of the future is the past, right? With a lot of these things, and Alabama's got a very good history, and that's putting it lightly. And I do think that like Missouri, like that's still a boogeyman you got to slay, right? No matter who the coach is stated on the other side, still the Alabama Crimson Tide over there. Can they beat them? Yeah, I would not be shocked if this is not a certified loss, right? I can see ways that Missouri wins this game, but I see more ways that Alabama wins this game. I still think they're going to be really good. As I mentioned, like I'm very high on Kalen DeBoer. Like I think that like that was a great hire. Maybe not their first hire that they wanted to do, but I still think it was a very good hire for that program.
I think if Missouri can pull off this win, we're looking at a playoff team. Like unless we do something kind of similar to like the Florida game last year, which we were missing like our entire linebacker core, and there was a lot, there was stuff going on. And so I'm not saying that we can't lose games after this that we're about to talk about, but there's no reason we shouldn't be a playoff team if we go into Tuscaloosa and we beat them. There's just no reason.
Yeah. So at that point, you're looking at, what do you be, 7-1, right? If you do lose to A&M. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 7-1 if you lose to A&M with 4 left. I mean, yeah, you're in a pretty darn good spot. Like especially with that resume of just like on the road in Tuscaloosa beating Alabama. You assume it's a close one to A&M, and A&M is actually like good, right? So A&M goes on and they help that your close loss to them on the road. And you think you'd be pretty darn close to a shoo-in, but this, again, bye week. They get the bye week after this. And then they have a pretty darn big game. It's been billed pretty high this offseason, as on November 9th, the Oklahoma Sooners, the 16th ranked Oklahoma Sooners, travel to Columbia, Missouri to take on the Missouri Tigers at 3:30 to 7 Central Time. That's a flex spot, obviously.
If they don't give us the night game for this game, because they're not giving us the night game for Bandy, let's just be like honest with ourselves here. Yeah. If they don't give us the night game for Oklahoma, we'll have no SEC night games. So I would go ahead and just assume that this is going to be a night game, because they try to, keep it even for everybody if you're not named LSU. So I'm hoping that they give us that night game. It'll be crazy, especially if we're 7-1 at that point, when the Sooners come in town. No Dylan Gabriel. Dylan Gabriel, high up there for Heisman last year, went to Oregon. They have I think their defense is going to be pretty solid. They've got Danny Stutzman. They've got Billy Bowman. Their back seven's really, really good.
Yeah.
Wide receiver core, also pretty good. Questionable about Jackson Arnold. We don't know yet. He did not look good again in the bowl game against Arizona. So, that's kinks. Obviously, it's his first true start. It's transfer portal guys. They did lose basically their entire offensive line.
No, they did. Yeah.
Yeah. They did. Because
they legitimately have 0 returning starters on their offensive line. They got that Branson Hickman from SMU, who's pretty decent. He's a good center. But they don't have any returning starters on their offensive line.
If anybody can take an offensive line that's not together, that's new, and turn them into something, capable, it's Beatembo. Yeah. I mean, it's Beatembo. He's one of the best guys to put offensive linemen into the NFL draft that there is out there. So I don't want to say that it's impossible that they're going to come in and we're just going to take advantage of a bad offensive line, because we don't necessarily know that to be true, but they didn't replace OU caliber recruits with what they got.
Right.
And I'm just hoping that our side of the trenches by that point in the season can dominate their O-line.
Yeah. Look, I've got this as down as a win. They lost to Arizona in the Alamo Bowl last year, in case you're wondering, 10-3 in 2023. I don't know if I brought that up. I was looking over my other computer here, trying to figure out, you mentioned the night game aspect of this, if this would be college game day. Game day could be in Columbia. There's some pretty darn good matchups that week. Alabama LSU is pretty darn good. Georgia and Ole Miss, that's a pretty darn good one. Let's just be honest. College game day loves going to the same places. No matter what they say, They love going to Tennessee. They love going to Tuscaloosa. We know that. At this point, I gave up
on thinking that they're going to come. The only way that they would come to Columbia for this game potentially is if they've already been to those other locations and OU has fewer losses by this point.
Yeah.
And I think that they'll have. And I don't think that they're going to have a ton of losses. They're going to have more than one or two, I think, at this point.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you said a lot of the things that I was going to say about this Oklahoma team. Burks is a stud.
Yeah.
Jackson Arnold's a huge question mark.
Where's Deion Burks from? He's a transfer. Isn't he a transfer?
Yeah, he transferred from. It's a really good question.
I was going to look it up.
Really good podcasting here as we just
yeah. Look at it.
Thinking about where Deion Burks.
Oh, it's Purdue.
That's right. Yep.
People are screaming at us. They're probably like, "It's Purdue, you dummies!"
Right. Yeah.
But no, sorry guys, we don't know everything.
Shocker! I know we thought we did, but we don't.
Told ya.
So I think we actually. No, you have them at what?
I have them at 2 losses at 7-2. Right?
I'm gonna give
6-2.
I think I'm gonna give them so I've got them at. Look at me, I'm a big old homer. 7-1 is that what I got them at?
Mm-hmm. Yep, that would be 7-1. And now I would have them at
6-2.
6-2. Yes.
Yep, huge homer. Bowl eligible by Oklahoma. That's great. That's what you want to see. Bye week, obviously ahead of Oklahoma, but then. Travel to South Carolina. They have back-to-back road games coming up here at South Carolina. This is on November 16th at 2:30, 3:30 flex spot. 5-7 in 2023 for the South Carolina Gamecocks. They obviously add Rocket Sanders. They have a dynamic rushing attack. But I think the questions surround their offensive line, and they lost a lot of guys in the portal, truthfully, for a program that tries to pride themselves on their culture and everyone wanting to be there. Lost a ton of guys in the portal. So,
and no Spencer Rattler, by the way.
Yeah, right. Yes. Did lose Spencer Rattler to the draft. He is probably going, at the time of this game, November 16th, yeah, he'll probably be playing for the Saints at this point. Derek Carr will be benched, and they'll probably be playing Spencer Rattler. That's what my prediction is from there.
Yeah. Their offensive line will have to be better. It was ranked 118th out of 130 in sacks allowed with 41 last year, which is very bad. Yeah. And then they lost, obviously. I just talked about him, Xavier Legette. He made up for 39.4% of all of Rattler's passing yards in 2023, and he's also not there as their best wide receiver. I think their defense will be much improved. They brought in quite a few people. I think they have some young freshmen that are pretty talented as well. This was the one that I was like considering with A&M. And not because I think that they're going to win this game. I think Mizzou should win this game. I have us down as winning this game.
Right.
And it's the same thing with Alabama, right? How I cannot pick Alabama or like Mizzou to beat Alabama until Mizzou proves to me that they can beat Alabama. That's what I'm doing with South Carolina. And that was kind of my final decision on it. Is until South Carolina proves to me that they can beat Mizzou, which they haven't for 5 years in a row, I'm taking Mizzou in this game. Like, it's just how it's... I don't even care that it's in Columbia, South Carolina, because Mizzou went to Columbia, South Carolina the last 2 times they played there, and they won there. Yeah. So I don't think it's that as great of an environment it is with Sandstorm, and it's wild and all this. I don't think it's as scary as an environment to play in as they want people to believe.
I agree. I got it as a win. I just think there's too many questions on both sides of the ball for South Carolina for me to feel really comfortable about them giving a win over a team that they just have proven that they cannot beat. Let's move on to Mississippi State. Next week, November 23rd. I got this down as a certified win. A little spoiler alert. This is at 2:30, 3:30 flex time. 5-7 in 2023 for Mississippi State. Look, the Bulldogs have had a rough go of things the past few years, obviously, with Mike Leach passing away and then just trying to figure out everything they wanted to do with the coaching search. They get Jeff Lebby as a first year as a head coach here. I think the offense could be schematically innovative, but I just don't know if they got the dudes to run it. is what it's going to come down to. They got the X's and O's. They just don't have the Jimmies and Joes. Defense is a little suspect, I think, at best. And Mizzou's offense, I think, is just going to be too talented for them. It should be a no problem win. It's, again, like I mentioned, a certified win I got here.
Yeah, they lost 8 starters from a very mediocre defense last year. And like, if we want to talk about losing, defensive starters, like, we get it. But our defense was good, and our backups were good when they came in and played, which was a lot. Yeah, they're playing in the NFL. And then the guys like Joseph Charleston, the guys like Chuck Hicks, they played a ton. They came in and played a ton on a good defense. This is not a good defense. Right. They were the 10th worst in college football. Getting to the quarterback works great for us because we've got a quarterback that, loves to stand in the pocket and make those throws. So I don't see how it's possible. I don't use the word certified, but I also have it down as a win. So
there you go. Yeah, I just don't see Mississippi State doing all that much this year, truthfully. Arkansas. This is a fun one. This game's not on Black Friday this year.
No, it isn't. We've got that afternoon slot on that Saturday, I believe.
2:30, 3:30, yep, flex time. 4-8 in 2023 for the Arkansas Razorbacks. Things are kind of falling apart. I have written in my notes here, Sam Pittman is already gone by this point. I don't know what the Hogs will have left to play for. They're bad. They get Tylen Green from Boise State. They have a 29-year-old freshman wide receiver. Tylen Green, fun, good. It's not enough to replace their 2 best players last year.
Tylen Green ranked 120th in FBS in passing grade last year, so it's not like he's not
a good thrower.
Oh yeah, it's not like they went out and they didn't go out and get somebody amazing from the portal. So.
Right. He's good on the he can run it, and that's fine. Also, the kid they have at Boise, I think, might actually be really good. The reason he transferred to Arkansas, but this might be another one of a repeat of what happened last year, right? Of just the lopsided score. I just can't see Sam Pittman still being there by this point, truthfully, for this game. And at that point, it's that the season's done at that point. When you fired your coach, they'll have whatever his face is. They brought in the OC.
Petrino.
They'll have Petrino be the interim. They'll fire him up for maybe a game. And then at this point, this is the end of the season. They've got to go to Columbia.
Where they've never won.
Right.
Ever.
It's not going to be close. And
I keep seeing people picking... It's funny because I feel like Mizzou's the scapegoat for a lot of people. They want to pick upsets all the time, and they're like, well, if I see one team that Vandy can beat, or if I see one team that Arkansas can beat, I think it's Missouri. And I'm like, why? Tell me why you see that, because they've never, ever won in Columbia. So I don't see how you see that happening with the roster that they have versus the roster that we have. I don't, I can't even find, there's ways with Texas A&M and there's ways with South Carolina that I can see these things happening. They would have to be so pumped that Pittman had gotten fired and just all in on Bobby Petrino. It's just going to have to be something a lot more than what I think that they're going to have, like you said, left in that tank. Don't think they're going to care.
No.
I just don't think they're going to care by this point. And that they tell us that all the time, that they never care by this part of the season whenever they play Missouri. So maybe I'll actually give it to them this year, because I'm not sure they're going to care by Thanksgiving break.
That could be the same thing, too, for Mississippi State. Not necessarily as they're firing a coach, but they're probably going to be 2 wins, maybe 3. I think Mississippi State's wins total might be 2.5. So you're looking at a team that is not going to have a whole lot of wins, and they're looking at the schedule, not seeing a whole lot of more wins either. So I think that kind of goes for both those games for me. Certified wins. I got 7 certified wins on the schedule, Maggie, and with the over/under, if you guys have been keeping track at home at 9.5, that means they only got to win 3 more games that are. I have 1 true toss-up, 1 loss, and 3 wins that aren't certified. So, like, I've got them at 11-1 is what I got this team at.
I did 10-2, and that's in my mind what I thought it was going to be. Like, that's when I was trying to get to. If we go 11-1, I'm going to be amped. I'm going to be next level amped.
Biggest homer.
But you remember I feel like last season, what'd you pick last season? Do you remember?
I think I picked 6-6. Like, I think that I thought.
I think you did, and I picked 8-4. And I'd rather us undersell.
Yeah.
And let them over deliver. And I mean, me saying 10-2 is like, that's weird that I'm saying, oh, that's an undersell.
Yeah.
But I think we can go 10-2. I don't see why we can't. Everybody in the country thinks we have the easiest schedule that's ever come out of FBS football, which I think is kind of wild to me. But I don't see why we can't be 10-2.
I haven't seen Ole Miss's schedule, I guess, yet.
Or Texas A&M, who doesn't play Georgia or Alabama. Like, I don't... Yeah. To me, it's kind of crazy that people aren't seeing that. And they get all their hard games at home, but they're just because they play Notre Dame. That's the only reason that they're up there is because they play Notre Dame. And
I don't know how good Notre Dame is going to be this year, though, either.
Exactly.
I'm trying to get a floor for this game or for this team. I'm going and just doing like a worst case scenario here really quick. Like, I don't think that sister games. So I think I'll say that.
Worst case for me, in my mind, like without looking, like going back through and like marking them, I don't see how we're worse than 7-5, 8-4, and that's that's worst case.
Yeah,
that's completely like 7-5. Very, very bad with the roster that we have. Like,
yeah, that'd have to be like injuries. I think that like you hit 7-5 if you like get injured. I think if like if you're still healthy and you end up 8-4, yeah, that'd be disappointing. But I still think that like that's the floor. I think 8 wins is the floor for this team. Mm-hmm. Fully healthy, because like the 4 that I moved are the Auburn. Like that, I see that one kind of getting crazy, right? Alabama, obviously. Oklahoma, that one goes to a loss instead of a win, for me at least. And then Texas A&M obviously is a loss. It's like all 4 of those games, like we talked about those, were all 4 games where something could happen. Mm-hmm. Like I think that's probably the floor. Do I think that they lose all 4 of them? No, I don't. I think it's more likely that they win 3 of them than they lose 4 of them. Yeah, I mean, I'm bullish on this team, truthfully. I mean, it all makes sense. Like everything about this team, like the returning starters, what you know about college football teams that return so many starters. Like look at the TCU team from a couple of years ago that went all the way. I'm not saying they're going to go all the way to the national title. They got defeated. Like they returned a lot on that team, and they had a lot of age and a lot of experience on that team. I think that on the offensive side of the ball, they're going to be a lot like that TCU team that was very good offensively.
I think every year that Missouri has been really, really solid. And I know obviously Chase Daniel I guess he was only a junior in 2007, which is still an upperclassman. But every year we've been really, really good. It's been because we've had those leaders and those upperclassmen like in that position. We're not a team that typically just gets players every year and reloads. I mean, it's getting a little bit better now. Drinks recruiting like the best we've seen at Missouri in a while, maybe ever. And so I can see like this year being just like 2013 and being like that 2017 where the expectations are there and you're so close. Yeah. You're just so close. And with the 12-team playoff, anything can happen early.
Well, that brings me to my next question, and the question I think that we will end this podcast with here. Will you be disappointed if this team doesn't make the 12-team playoff?
Yes. I would be disappointed if this team did not make a 12-team playoff. And it's interesting, though, because you look at all of the schedules of who people are playing and like who Texas was playing. And I know people say Texas' schedule is easy, but I don't really think it's that. I don't think any of the SEC schedules are that easy.
Right.
They're SEC schedules.
Right.
Like, do you want to go play Alabama and Tuscaloosa? No.
Yeah.
Do you want to go play Texas A&M and College Station? No. Like, you don't want to do it. I think teams are going to lose games they're not supposed to. There's going to be a shuffle. It's not just going to be those top teams that are in that top 10 that are going to make it. Mizzou just has to do their job Just win the games you're supposed to win. You don't have to win them by a lot.
Yeah.
Last year, how many one-possession games did we win? And we would have been in a playoff spot last year. So do your job. Come out of these games with W's. And I think you can get yourself in that playoff.
I think so too. And I wouldn't be surprised even if you do have 3 losses if you could sneak in. That's the other thing too, is I think there's a larger margin of error. I do think 2 is probably the least you can be and feel like you.
I think it's 2.
Yeah. And those 2 games are probably A&M and Alabama. If you lose, I think if you lose Oklahoma, and if you lose at home to if your 2 losses are Oklahoma and Auburn, it doesn't hit the same as A&M and Alabama. It also depends on who you lose to in a lot of this circumstance. Mm-hmm. I think they make it. I do. Man, it would be really nice to have this last year, right?
I know. That's such a Mizzou thing, though. I know people hate that, but I'm like, of course it comes out the 12 team comes out after the year we would have been in. So,
yeah. But a lot of expectations on this team. I do think that I feel pretty confident about over 9.5. I think I have a bet on DraftKings Sportsbook about over 9.5 at the plus 135 too. Because I think 10 is a good bet for this Missouri team to win the amount of games. But
I have a DraftKings stub up on my fridge for Mizzou to make the playoff. So.
Maybe that's a better bet than just the over 135. I'll look that up, but I have to hop on over to the Kansas State line. Missouri's got to get on it. Missouri's got to get on this. I know it's going to be on the ballot.
Go on.
It's going to be on the ballot next, but we're having to hop over to state lines to do this. We're going to have to give our money to other states for us to bet on our home football team. Ridiculous.
A lot of the times, though, you can't even bet on your home college team, though. There's something, if you go to a sports book, you can. But there was something about being in Illinois and you can't vote or you can't bet on the University of Illinois.
Really?
Unless you go to a DraftKings Sportsbook, which we have at Casino Queen. Shout out Casino Queen here in St. Louis, downtown St. Louis.
Yeah.
You can go there, but I don't think that in some states you can bet on your home state team. So just keep that in mind. But still vote yes, please.
Yeah, please. I'm begging you. I need you to vote yes. Okay, I found it on DraftKings Sportsbook. Missouri to make the college football playoff is plus 175. So you do get better value because they're going to have to win 10 games, right? If they're going to make the college football playoff, they're going to have to win at least 10 games. That would hit the over. Parlay it. Ooh, now we're getting spicy. This is not gambling advice, but not gambling.
Watch a real show. Watch a real betting show for that, but we'll give you our own personal homer opinion. And I love a good parlay, so
I might parlay that. I wonder what you could get actually. Let me cook it up real quick. Actually, while live on the podcast, cooking up parlays. Maybe this is a new segment that we do. Is we just cook up parlays on the podcast. I'm not gonna be able to place it obviously because I'm in Missouri right now. In Kansas City, Missouri. Shout out the good side of Missouri or the good side of Kansas City. Yeah, you can parlay it. Oh, okay, never mind. You can't parlay it according to DraftKings.
Oh, because it's the future side of it or something.
Yeah, it is. You can't parlay 2 futures together.
That's how they get.
Dang it. Well, I guess that'll do it for this week's edition of Mizzou That's Who.
Your new site for all things sports betting.
Or you learned you can't parlay future bets. We appreciate you guys sticking with us all the way to the end of this podcast. Appreciate it. Make sure to like, subscribe. Appreciate you watching. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you guys so much. Leave a 5-star rating and review. If you leave a 5-star rating and review, I'll read it live on the air. When we see it on the Mizzou channel. So appreciate you. Be a friend. Tell a friend, as Pat McAfee says about Mizzou That's Who. We will be back next week with a special preview edition. Previewing a football game. It's back. It's here.
We're back, baby. We're back, baby.
We're so back. We'll talk to you next week.